I'm here today with a special guest, Miss Shanti Shoji, and I have to start with an apology because we've been emailing back and forth, and I assumed she was a Mister, and I don't know why, but I guess it's just because I'm not very accustomed still with like Japanese names. But she corrected me, and now we're here. But then I've always had to correct people about my name all the time, so it's I'm used to it.
It's all right.
And so she was here she's with a great nonprofit organization called Kizuna Across Cultures, and the reason I actually got introduced to her organization was one of my private school students won a speech contest. She's actually she's pretty famous, semi-famous, because she's the first Korean national non-Japanese to win the English speech contest, which she wrote about her father and his immigrant experience.
Wow.
Her father happens to be like the national women's, or was the former national women's handball coach, and everything. So, and he's been high profile as a Korean working in Japan. Anyway, because of winning that, she got to go to the Christmas embassy party last year, and she got to meet Ambassador Kennedy briefly. And Ambassador Kennedy told her about the Kizuna Across Cultures program. And then my student told me about it, and I was like, oh, this is perfect for the school I'm at now. Her world has really opened up from that, because she went to England as part of the award, and now she's looking at for me as a student, it's like that not so much that they can become fluent, that'd be great, but they have no fear about becoming a global person.
Putting themselves out there.
But without further ado, Miss Shanti Shoji, tell me. So, Shoji, how did you get? So are you? Because everyone's like, oh, is she married to a Japanese? I don't know. You know what? She might be 4th, 5th generation, 6th generation. Because that's what we always assume. But you never know these days.
So yes, I am from the U.S. Very much American. But I was previously married to a Japanese. So
I see.
I have the Shoji name.
And where? So I always talk about before Japan. So before Japan, where'd you grow up in the U.S.?
So I'm from Portland, Oregon.
Okay, Portland, not Portland, Maine.
Not Portland, Maine. Portland, Oregon. Yeah. And so for me, growing up in Portland, Japan was kind of my neighbor. Mm-hmm. To me, Europe was on the other side of the world. It was too far away. But in Portland, there's Japanese people, there's Japanese markets. We hosted Japanese people, so it's kind of been
like a homestay?
Yeah, we would host Japanese 1-month homestay participants that were 13, 14.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's where that initial interest started. And then how did you come to Japan? So we see where the interest started.
Sure. So my mom was a high school teacher. And she was taking a group of her high school students to Japan on an exchange. And it was something like if 15 people went, her air ticket was free. But when the deadline had come, only 14 people had signed up. So she asked me, I was 13 at the time, do you want to go to Japan? And I said, yes, of course. So I went to Japan, and while she was the chaperone for a month with her students, I stayed with a Japanese family we knew for a month. So I basically did a month homestay. I went to Japanese 6th grade elementary school for 1 week.
Wow.
Spoke no Japanese. It was great. I mean it.
Yeah, no, it is
was
great.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So that's how it started, and that was the small snowball that I was then, and now I just kept rolling down the hill. And
then did you? Did you study Japanese in university?
Yes.
So that
Yeah. So went to Japan, loved it at age 13. Started studying on my own. Then I entered high school about a year later, around 14, and I studied Japanese for 4 years in high school. So I was really lucky. My public high school had that. And then I thought, well, I don't want to forget it if I stop studying. So I went to University of Oregon, where they have a good Japanese program, and majored in Japanese. And then after that, there was the JET program that I really wanted to do, so I did the JET program.
And where were you placed initially in the JET program?
So I was in Kagawa Prefecture in Shikoku. They have the best udon. If no one's ever been and you want to go, please go. It's amazing. Kagawa. But Kagawa for 2 years as a junior high ALT. And then I thought I was kind of done with JET, but not ready to go back to the U.S. yet. So when I was an undergrad, I did a year internship in Japan for a Japanese nonprofit.
What was the name of that?
So it's called LABO, L-A-B-O. Labo International Exchange Foundation. So I called up Labo. I knew that they had one position for a non-Japanese person to fill. And I said, hey, remember me? By any chance, this August I'll be done with JET. I'd like to stay in Japan. Is there a job opening? And as luck would have it, the person who was there was leaving. So I applied for the job and I got it. So then I moved to Tokyo and I worked there for 3 years for Labo.
What kind of work did you do there?
At Labo? Yeah. So they, it's kind of like a Girl Scouts organization. It's a youth education organization, but it's all about kind of internationalization and kind of a Sesame Street way to learn English. So they have no testing or anything like that, but they play in English, they sing songs, they do plays in English. So they host international exchange students from around the world, so those students can host those students, but also those students can also travel abroad on 1 month or year-long exchanges. So I was a program manager for all the English-speaking countries who came to Japan to stay with those students. So I ran programs with the U.S., Canada, Australia, New Zealand. So
wow, and how many students during in a year would you guys shuttle back?
So we have our big
connect?
summer program, which was a 1 month homestay, and that would be maybe 150 students from the U.S. and Canada. They'd go all over Japan, and then I was an intern. I was in charge of the interns, so we would have, I think it was about 2 students, and these were college students, 2 college students from the U.S., 1 from New Zealand, 1 from Australia, maybe 1 or 2 from Canada. So my kind of joke, but it was true, is that I was kind of their mom from the time they're playing touchdown in Japan until they left. So yeah, it was a great. I was there for 3 years, so I really enjoyed that. And then I wanted to go to grad school. So I applied to, I think, 7 grad schools in the U.S., got into 2 and a half. I halfway got into Columbia. And anyway, I ended up going to American University in Washington, D.C. I studied international communication, so I'm interested in how culture affects how we communicate with one another. So wasn't Japan related, really. But DC has a lot of U.S.-Japan things going on, so I would participate in those. And then I graduated, and I started working at the Embassy of Japan at their cultural center. So I was the cultural affairs coordinator, and I worked with the diplomats from Japan to put on cultural events for the American public to help them learn about Japan.
Kimono dressing and making mochi.
Well, yeah, but also things like we had Yamazaki-san. She is a Japanese female astronaut. So we had the shuttle that she went to space in. Her whole team, which they're from all over the world, came to our center and did a presentation. So I met 7 astronauts or something.
Cool.
Yeah, so we did some really cool things. I worked with Sawa-san, the
soccer player?
Yes, the famous. She was playing actually in DC at that time. So she would do. We had tickets to one of her games, and she would come and talk about her experience. So it was interesting, fun stuff. And then getting to where I am now with KAC and the Global Classmates program. So the San-Ichi-Ichi, or the March 11th tsunami and earthquake, happened in Tohoku.
Were you in Japan? Or
and
were
I
you
was
in
U.S. working at the Japanese embassy at the time. And as a former Jet and someone who had lived there for 6 years, I'm very much tied to Japan.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to do something more than just give money.
Mm-hmm.
I did like hold a fundraiser, and I think I raised like $3,000 or something.
Mm-hmm. Great.
But I want to do more, you know?
Yeah.
So me and some other former ALTs, we got together and we're like, what can we do? We don't have collectively that much money that we can give. So we thought, let's do like a one-time project. So we thought, you know, okay, what can we do? All right, let's give the students in Tohoku some hope.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's connect them with American students.
Mm-hmm.
Using the internet. It's free. Okay, great. Oh, that works, but wait, in Japan their English isn't so great, so how are they going to talk to each other? And then one of the guys who was there, a former ALT, he's actually the Japanese language teacher at Langley High School in Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
So he was like, why don't you use my class?
Mm-hmm.
We're like, okay, cool. So it was really hard to find a school in Japan that would work with us. One, because it was online. Two, because we were like just a group of collective people. We weren't an actual.
You weren't a recognized organization.
No one knew we were.
Yeah. How many of you were in that initial group?
Maybe 10 people.
10 people.
Yeah.
I mean, I imagine you guys like, you know, hanging
like
out at someone's house, having dinner at a bar, you know, and that's a lot of great ideas happen that way because you know you're around people that you're comfortable with and you have this common. You know, feeling to do something, and at the time it just seems like this is just a crazy idea. You know what I mean? It's just like, but you're pulling your resources. I think that's really that's how great things started. So and just the connections that you just happen to have by luck. Is great. So how did you go about? Because the tough thing is like you're saying with like using the internet on the Japanese site and finding the school.
Yes.
You know,
it's a challenge for sure.
Yeah. So how did you overcome those challenges?
So we Ayako Smethurst, who's the president and also co-founder of KAC, she just started calling people, and I think she might have had like one connection with someone who worked at like the International Center in Sendai, and they reached out to a high school. But anyway, we got one high school finally that was like, sure, we'll try it.
Yeah.
So we did our pilot program for 3 months, and we're like, oh, this kind of works. Let's try it, you know, some more.
Let's try 2 schools.
And we had another co-founder, Takezawa Noritaka. He was our good friend, living in DC at the time from grad school, but Japanese. And he's just one of those guys, very charismatic, and he seems to know everybody. So he put us in touch with the Ministry of Education, and one of the top people there was like, oh, this is such a great idea, let's do this. And somehow, between March and September, we found 13?
Wow,
13
that's a huge jump in a short time. So
we did 13 pairs. We did it for... the new duration, which was initially 7 months, September to March, and then from the next year on, we've always done 6 months. But we're now in our 6th year.
Congratulations!
Thank you, and we've connected nearly 6,500 students. So, and we're completely the program's grant covered. So schools, teachers, students don't have to pay anything to participate because we think it's really important to allow students. Who may otherwise not have the opportunity to connect with people abroad. So basically, we created in a 6-month online a virtual cultural and language exchange program.
It's a cool system. You guys use Schoology, Schoology.com, which I wouldn't know. I mean, eventually maybe I would have, but I didn't know about it until I learned through your program, and I can already see this system. It's like, okay, I can use this with other classes or other. This is a great way to, I guess, keep the Japanese staff and administration.
Yes.
That this is a safe system. So, it's closed.
Yeah.
We're monitoring this and everything. That's always been a big issue is like privacy and fear of using the new technology. Even though I'm like this isn't that new.
Yeah.
But you know
Yeah.
how it is.
Yeah, that was definitely finding something that works both in the U.S. and in Japan within their school system. We would love to use Facebook, but that's just blocked. Not going to work. And Drew Scrons, who's one of the co-founders and the Japanese language teacher at Langley High School, he knew about Schoology, and it's free. We still use it. We use the free version. So, right, you have to get really creative when you don't have money, but you have big ideas. So
resourcefulness.
Yes.
Well, let me backtrack. Like, so when you went from the very first initial one, and then you got people to buy it, and you jumped to 13.
Yes.
Like your friends and staff, whatever. Like, you guys were all working other jobs at the time. I mean, it was just like how did I guess. How did you balance all that? Like, how were you were still working
at the embassy at
the embassy, and so this is a side hustle.
Yes.
And the other colleague, he's teaching high school.
Yes.
It's not like you don't have much time as a teacher.
Exactly.
So how do you guys coordinate and get everything together with all that?
I think
try to make a living.
I think definitely the idea that we came up with and have made into a program is not any, other people have thought of the idea, but it's actually getting the structure and getting people to dedicate the time to get it where it is. And I think without the earthquake or tsunami or such a huge kind of disaster that happened, people just aren't moved enough. But definitely it was a hustle. The struggle was real. So basically, it was a side hustle. We would all just meet maybe once or twice a week. We would use like Ayako's like where she was working in DC. We would use her office after hours. She asked her boss, and he said it was fine. And then it became Ayako and I kind of came out front as the people kind of leading it. And then her and I would meet at coffee shops during lunch or after work. So we did that. And then in 2013, it took a lot of time. By 2013, we were in like our third year. We're now like,
on the side. This is all on the side
up under the side.
But now you're reaching
getting paid.
Now you're reaching a tipping point.
And by this time we're starting to get some money. We have 501c3, which is nonprofit status in the United States, so people can donate. So I took a leap of faith, and I was kind of tired of working at the embassy, done with that job, wanted to try something else. So I quit my job with no other job. I mean, I had the KAC, but I wasn't making enough to pay any rent or living wages. So I started working at an izakaya for a year and 9 months.
Which is
another
great way, grassroots promotion.
Yes. So actually, I did meet
did you get a funder? From that? That'd be great.
I haven't gotten a direct funder, but I definitely was able to network.
No, that's great.
That great and support us, which is so important. So I would work like 4 nights a week at the izakaya, and make enough to barely get by. And then during the day, I would do the KAC work, and then we started applying for like really large grants. Well, to us they were large.
But no.
And nothing like a few hundred. Nothing like that. They weren't big, but
it's really it's all big. Believe me, and it's just that learning process.
Exactly.
Of filling out the grant and what paperwork you need. I mean,
and how you write it and persuade them.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, my wife and I we won a business grant like 2 years ago, and it's nothing like big. It was like $3,000. But for us as a small business, but that feeling. It's like we got it. Because you put your brain into it. And you put your heart into it, and you're trying to like, hey. And I don't know, did you have to do it in 2 languages? I had to do it in English and then get someone to help me translate. Mine was a Japanese grant.
So we were in the U.S., so our grant was in English, but the U.S.-Japan Foundation in New York, we got it. So it was a 3-year grant.
It feels great, doesn't it?
It was so good. And it was enough, like, then I could go full-time. on a very minimum salary, but I could go full time, and then we could start to also pay kind of like on an honorarium basis at least people that were helping us. And then Ayako started. She also moved to a part-time job, and then when we could get more, then she came on as full-time. So now we have 2 full-time staff. Her and myself.
That's great.
Yeah, and we have 5 coordinators who work with the schools that we match.
I think Ishita.
Yoko,
I met her online. She's great. Yeah.
So, but basically, they also are working out of their desire to connect students in the U.S. and Japan.
Yeah, I think she's still in grad school or something.
Yeah,
a lot of people, for everyone is, it's a side hustle. It's a real passion thing, because there's really, there's really not much money into it. Yeah. But not everything is money.
Yeah, exactly.
I told you, it's like, at the end of my tape recorder voice activities, which, I kind of loathe in a way, but it's what I got to do.
Yeah.
Is when, hey, I can hand them a letter. I can hand them something from a friend who's also a second language learner and see their eyes light up when they're like, we both like K-pop. Yes. It's like, then they realize it's like this, learning the second language, really conveys a lot of feelings and emotions and connections. So.
Yeah. So we just continue to build from there and trying to get. We need all types of support, so that's been really important, and people have been great about kind of stepping up with donations as well. So, we're in our 6th year now. This year we have 31 pairs, about 1,700 students, and we grow by about 5 pairs every year. So, yeah.
Well, as we're getting closer to 2020, I'm sure you guys want to make it to 2020. Everyone's, Tokyo 2020, Tokyo 2020. I guess, how do you see, as we're getting closer to that date, helping, your organization, and what do you look at it beyond, 2020?
Sure. So, several years back, we were kind of like, 2020 Olympics, like, what's our goal? And our goal was that we want to increase the number of schools that we work with every year, kind of until that point. And I think 2020 will be 8 years, I guess. And I think by then we will have connected over 10,000 students.
Wow.
So, we'll kind of see where we are, how our funding's looking like, have we been able to expand staff-wise as necessary. But I think our program is quite robust, and of course we tweak it a little bit every year to make it better. But now really looking at scalability, and the next step will need to be hiring staff. So, but definitely, there's I think about 600 high schools in the U.S. that teach Japanese, and there's obviously every high school in Japan teaches English. So the market is still huge.
Yeah, definitely.
As far as we know, we're the only one that offers such a program between the U.S. and Japan. So we know there's still a lot of needs out there. So to continue to grow. Yeah.
So Jets that are listening, or any ALTs, it doesn't matter. Yes. Look at they're looking for help. They're looking for passionate people. I mean, it's not. I'm sure it's probably not going to pay as much as it is on the Jet salary, but
and I think
that's a pretty good gig.
I think actually, right now, a great thing would be just whenever we have an ALT working with the program. So if it's just a JTE, there's great JTEs, so that works well too. But also having an ALT be a part of it is really, really helpful. So if you're an ALT and you work at a high school and you're interested, we'd love to have you apply to the program. And I realized I didn't really explain what we do, so maybe
go for it.
A quick explanation. But basically, it's a 6-month, like I said, virtual cultural and language exchange. So we take a class of high school students in the U.S. studying Japanese and connect them via an e-classroom with a class of high school students in Japan studying English. So we do everything from receiving applications or outreach, like I'm trying to do right now, get applications, select schools that are participating, match them with a school in the other country. We provide training, planning, weekly kind of coordination. There's a coordinator, bilingual coordinator, that's with every pair to kind of support the teachers in their facilitation of the program. So what the teachers do is they facilitate our online program right into their language class. So it's 1 hour per week for 6 months, September to February. And you need to have a device, at least one device for every 2 students, but best one device for every student, and a good network, IT connection, internet connection.
And that's becoming more prevalent than not. I've noticed there's, the government is pushing, technology in the classroom. It is a challenge for teachers on how to use it. Because I've been in schools where it's like, well, you guys have this stuff, but you're not using it. So I think this program is a great, a program that's kind of lays it out. Here's one way that you can use it. And for me, one big thing that really legitimized the program was you had all your information, instructions in Japanese.
Yes.
So that, I didn't have to always explain, and it had all these great, press, and you had these organizations, which are, government organizations. So it's like, this isn't just, me and my technology idea. No, this is a legitimate program that's been, and it was a lot easier. This was probably the easiest thing for me to convince, for any using any technology or any exchange like this. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, do it, because they could read it in Japanese, had recommendations, you had permission forms. I mean, thank you for coming up with all that stuff.
Happy to hear that. Good.
Because I've been on that end. We're okay, I have to make this permission for, I have to make this, and I have to explain, and I have to translate it.
It's too much.
It's too much.
Yeah.
And I know that stuff from my end. It's like, that takes just a lot of time.
It does.
Yeah.
We definitely know teachers are so busy, and we want to do as much as we can to support teachers, but to also, for example, provide everything in English and Japanese, so no one's having to translate. We have the coordinator who's bilingual, who works with the 2 teachers, working together as a kind of pair, to check in. How are things going? Are things going well? This topic looks like it's going really great. There are things, of course, only the teacher can do, but wherever we can do the work for you, we try. So. Yeah. No,
you've done a lot by
Great.
Just making all the forms and the manuals. It's very impressive, and so I really thanks. Is there anything else? Website or how they contact.
So if you are interested, you can check out our website, which is kacultures.org. kacultures.org, and our website is also in English and Japanese. And then applications for Japan side to apply to participate open up mid-January every year to mid-March. So if you go to our website, we'll have a link up from mid-January that if you're interested, you can just fill out a quick form with your contact information, and then we'll send you the online application. And then, or you can, we're also on Facebook at Kizuna Across Cultures. And we have email addresses in there too if you want to actually.
I'll add links to this, don't worry.
Oh, great.
And everything.
Awesome. Thank you.
It's just off YouTube. Yeah, I just want to say is from having used it myself, and and I've used Skype in the classroom, a bunch of other areas, is my students it's the huge spectrum from the lowest level, I don't like English, to fluent kids. And I'm in a special school where it's half Japanese and half non-Japanese nationals. So it's a very mixed bag. The very first month was the toughest because their lack of computer literacy, they're typing so slow. Just them thinking up the ideas, to convey of just what's your favorite whatever.
Yeah.
It's really slow in the beginning. So if you participate, that's going to be normal, especially on the Japanese end, because the culture,
Uh-huh.
that they're not used to expressing as much as Americans are. But they get used to it, and more and more, like the last 2 months, even the lowest kid, they ask me, when are we going to go to the PC room?
Yay.
When do I get
It's
to
exciting.
exchange with my my partner in America? And of course, I still have to go around and kind of like
Of course.
crack the whip. It's like, hey, reply to this guy.
Yeah.
Reply to her. Oh,
Yeah.
wait, she asked you a question. But I look at it like this: it's authentic, meaning it's more valuable for me to crack the whip and get them to focus on, try to use your Japanese and English, just do something as opposed to like doing the same thing for a worksheet, which I have to do too. But this is authentic, and then giving them ideas. It's like, oh, they're talking about, let's find a video link and everything, and you just see the joy on the kids' faces, and the fact that they're asking, when are we going to do it? Whether it's going to be perfect grammar, perfect or not, that's not the point. The point is like, get used to being connected in this technological globalized world and everything.
And I think one other key point of the program that allows, I think, students to get more and more excited about it as the time goes on, and not be so nervous about using their English, like here in Japan, is as the students in the U.S. are studying Japanese, both sides write messages in both languages. So the students in Japan, as we know, they're very shy and they want to be perfect. When they see the Americans have all these really hilarious mistakes in their Japanese, then the Japanese students are like, oh, like, okay, if their Japanese is like this and they don't care and they're sending it, and I understand what they're saying, then like, okay, I'm just going to write in English and just communicate. So when they do that every week for 6 months, soon enough, they're like, they don't care about their imperfect English. They just want to communicate, which is great.
I even point out to them, like, look, this is the quote-unquote native English speaker. They're making mistakes too. They're making the same spelling mistakes, punctuation, grammar mistakes as you are. So, it's on both ends there. Okay. Well, anything else?
I think that's it. Just if you're passionate about kind of making your class more of an active learning space and really providing them a opportunity for your students to connect with students their age in another country and practically use English, then definitely check us out.
Great. Thank you, Shanti Shoji. Kizuna Across Cultures. Please check it out. I'll put links down below. And yes, get your class signed up. That's all there is to it. And we'll see from there. All right.